Because Night Rain wasn't hard enough, I challenged all of you to collect as many runes as possible in just 35 minutes solo.
Make your choice.
The rules of this challenge were simple. No mods of any kind that affect gameplay, no major glitches or bugs, and you must attempt the challenge in a solo expedition. Whoever has the most runes at the end of 35 minutes will win $500, and due to the random nature of this game, this speedrun was brutal. Despite the odds, 5 of you still rose to the occasion, and this video will focus on first and second place. Before we begin, I'll be giving away $50 randomly to 3 of you who like the video, are subscribed, and comment which boss you'd like to see added to Night Rain next. I'll be responding to the winners over the next few days, and I read every single comment. Enjoy. Ulo and Scrappy begin their expeditions as Wilder, who is, without a doubt, one of the best night fares in the entire game. His grappling hook is great for getting around the map quickly, and most of the best weapons in Night Rain are actually greatswords, like the Grafted Blade or Moray's Executioner's Sword. Looking at the map reveals that they're both playing on the exact same seed, and you'll see why that is a little later in the run. After landing and clearing out the first camp, both runners take slightly different routes. Their first objective is simple. Get as strong as possible, as fast as possible, because the moment this timer hits 0, something really bad is going to happen. But for now, let's start with Ulo. Ulo is a content creator and data miner who enjoys breaking the game apart so he can understand how it works. He's also a risk taker, and in this run, he starts by heading east where he decides to push his luck. Using the stone sword key he started with, he unlocks a nearby Everjail and then challenges the boss inside at just level 2. Because this Everjail can only ever drop purple loot, he'll receive 20,000 runes as a reward, and thanks to the relics he's using, he'll also get 30,000 for defeating the boss itself. Ulo's relics show us that his build is focused on 2 things: rune acquisition and inflicting as much fire damage as possible. After defeating the Godskin Noble, he stops to loot the corpse of a player who died in another world, and after taking a closer look, that might actually be one of you. Ulo's gonna jump off this cliff and challenge the boss below. He's chosen the Grafted Scion in particular because it falls within a category of bosses known as non-formidable. This is just a fancy way of saying that this boss is easy and it drops mostly blues. And the reason why this is important is because blues have a 6.66% chance to drop the 10% more runes bonus. After landing a huge ult, the fire damage really starts to add up. Once the Grafted Scion goes down, Ulo doesn't seem to find what he's looking for, but he does find a Lost Scroll Assassin's class, and is that a Steam wishlist link? This video is sponsored by Crystal of Atlan, a free-to-play Magic Punk MMO action RPG that just dropped its newest class, and it looks amazing. So you know how most MMOs make you pick a class and then you're basically stuck with like 3 abilities for the next 200 hours? Yeah, Crystal of Atlan said, nah, that's boring, and they decided to give you 20 classes up front, all unlocked from the start and no grinding required. Each class has over 20 different skill combinations, so you're not just playing some generic mage or sword guy, you're actually creating your own combat style with air combos that make gravity look optional. The new assassin class that just dropped has 2 branches: Spectre, which is all about lurking in the shadows, or Mirage, which bends elements and teleports around using Void Shift. Regardless of the branch you choose though, both are designed to make your enemies question their life choices. What really caught my attention though is the fact that Crystal of Atlan has no character gacha. This means you don't have to gamble for characters and spend a bunch of money trying to get a good one. Everything is strictly skill based, especially the PvP, where it's just you, your build, and whatever skills you bring to the table. They also just added this massive 8-player co-op dungeon called the Lost Ruin Temple of Fate, and it's got mechanics that'll actually test your team's IQ. The game launches on Steam October 30th, and there's a free demo coming October 13th, so go ahead and add Crystal of Atlan to your Steam wishlist using my link in the description below. And don't forget to check out the new assassin class on mobile and PlayStation today. Thanks again to Crystal of Atlan for sponsoring this video. Just like Ulo, Scrappy is also a content creator, but his experience comes from a very unexpected place, and that's years of speedrunning Call of Duty Zombies.
Hello YouTube. Today I'll be explaining how the zombie spawn system works in Black Ops 6.
With that said, he is very used to performing under pressure, and that'll definitely come in handy for what's about to come up later. Despite being on the same seat as Ulo, Scrappy took a more consistent approach instead. For starters, he doesn't have any relics that increase his rune acquisition, and he doesn't start with the stone sword key either. That's because Scrappy isn't focused on boosting his rune count early like Ulo, and rather he's chosen to use Fulgor's relic, which builds his ultimate art faster for every enemy that he kills. With all all 3 relics dedicated to making Wilder as deadly as possible, he'll be able to spam his ult and rack up a ton of kills within the 35-minute time limit. Scrappy breaks open crates and finds a gold pickle foulfoot, which grants a 10% boost to rune acquisition for 60 seconds. Small bonuses like these really do add up, and even an item like this one can spell the difference between winning or losing this race. Rather than risking it all on an Everjail, Scrappy heads west to face a non-formidable boss instead. Thanks to Fulgore's relic, he already has enough meter for an ult, and it hasn't even been a minute yet. The Miranda flower gets melted in record time, and Scrappy is rewarded with a purple. While this is nice, what he's really looking for is that 10% more runes bonus, but this will have to do for now. He heads south to the cathedral and checks the chest upstairs for a stone sword key. He doesn't manage to find one, but he does find the time to beat the boss downstairs for some extra runes and a small reward. Afterward, he makes his way over to a nearby church where he scores yet another pickle foulfoot. So far, he's been very fortunate, but his luck runs out as soon as he arrives at this Everjail.
Oh.
After forgetting that he never actually picked up a key, he's forced to change plans entirely. He decides to head northeast where he hunts down a scarab and picks up a fire scorpion talisman for 15% more fire damage. This isn't the item he was looking for, but it does fit perfectly into his fire focused build, so he's gonna go ahead and use it anyway. Meanwhile, Ulo doesn't find what he's looking for either, and with just 3 minutes left on his timer, he heads north to a traveling merchant where he upgrades his starting weapon to +1. To the west, Ulo finds another non-formidable boss, and after defeating the smaller enemies around her, he beats the queen without too much trouble. Doing so finally rewards him with that 10% more runes bonus. Now that he's level 7, both runners set their sights on the Ulcerated tree spirit. This boss is classified as formidable and should really only be challenged on day 2, but because it drops a purple weapon, each runner has decided that it needs to die now. The tree spirit has other plans in mind though, and while Ulo's fight was mostly solid, the same could not be said for Scrappy, who was only level 4. Scrappy opens with a power stance jump attack and follows it up with an ult. Rather than going for the riposte, he opts for more jump attacks to capitalize on the flames that he's left burning on the ground. For many players, this boss can be frustrating. To the untrained eye, it's hard to tell if it's moving or attacking, but Scrappy knows exactly when to dodge, rolling at just the right moment to avoid getting grabbed. After landing another stance break, the circle closes in and Scrappy gets a little greedy. Because he's only level 4, he takes a ton of damage as a result, and after a clutch, life-saving roll, he defeats the tree spirit with only a minute remaining. Scrappy gets a royal greatsword for his trouble, but his prize pales in comparison to Ulo, whose luck has finally started to turn around. Not only is the Death's Poker one of Wilder's best weapons, but its passive, many periodical glint blades, is extremely good. The only thing they're missing now is a very specific talisman, but each runner has a plan that'll vastly increase their odds of finding it. At this point, Ulo is leading by about 10,000 runes, and he's going to take some time to destroy this Miranda Blossom. Right before it goes down, the timer finally reaches 0. A demon has cast its curse, but this is exactly what both runners were waiting for. Ulo immediately heads over to break it, but Scrappy stops at an Everjail to kill the Apostle first. Eventually, both runners do reach Libra, and after paying 15,000 runes to lift it, they're rewarded with the channel's mascot. Now that they have what they need, they do the unthinkable and attack the Scalebearing Merchant. Attempting this at level 7 first night is absolutely insane, but if there's anyone who can do it, it's definitely these two. Ulo, who's leading by about 40,000 runes, opens with a weapon skill and manages to proc a frostbite. This will lower Libra's defenses by about 20% until he gets hit with a flame. A well-timed roll sets Ulo up for a few R1s, and a close-range ultimate breaks his stance completely. From there, he's going to take the riposte and let the flames take care of the rest. Scrappy's fight starts off a little rocky. After overextending a bit, he manages to get behind Libra, where he unleashes an ult of his own. Riposting with his scythe results in a bleed proc, and after a few more swings, the goat goes down. Defeating Libra has huge implications in this run. The first is that they get to choose from 3 different talismans, and Scrappy is lucky enough to find a gold scarab, which will increase his runes from all defeated enemies by 15%. Ulo wasn't as lucky. As I mentioned earlier, in exchange for breaking the curse, both runners chose the Symbol of Avarice, another talisman that'll increase rune acquisition by 20% at the cost of continuous HP loss. Most importantly though, each runner gains the Demon's Plating power, which will increase their attack power depending on the runes they have in their possession. This attack power increase is exponential, giving them 90% more attack power at the soft cap of 900,000 runes. In theory, it's possible to achieve 200% attack power, but that means you'd have to have 10 million runes in your possession, which is basically impossible to do. With Libra down, both runners make their way toward the next objective. They're going to stop at the Firefly tree for a short 10% more runes buff, and since Ulo still hasn't found the talisman yet, he makes a beeline for the basement. But before he can earn another shot at the golden scarab in the chest upstairs, he has to defeat Vader first. Despite almost dying 5 seconds into the fight, Ulo finds his bearings, and that's when it becomes apparent that he has practiced this fight a lot. This was not the case for Scrappy, however, and when I interviewed him after this challenge, he mentioned himself that this was one of his worst fights. We'll see how that went later. After landing a riposte, Ulo gets a frost proc and sets up a ghost flame while the hunter recovers. The flames on the ground deal consistent chip damage, keeping pressure on the hunter and making riposte easier to land. After a lot of patience and dodging some attacks that definitely would have hit me, Vader is defeated, and Ulo earns 135,000 runes for his trouble. If this number sounds high to you, it's because he's currently sporting a 50% more runes bonus. Between the bonus from the non-formidable,s the symbol of avarice, and the golden firefly tree, each one stacks multiplicatively. Thanks to the symbol of avarice, Ulo's health is constantly drained, and this is especially dangerous as he moves to clear the Crucible Knights in the castle. These guys are very strong, but give a massive 18,000 runes at minimum, making Crucible Knights the most rewarding castle of any expedition. With Ulo's buffs, the count goes over 40,000 runes per night, giving him a nice lead provided he doesn't die while fighting them. After a few minutes, the tide of night approaches and Ulo is forced to go fight the night boss, killing an Elder Lion on the way for a Halo sight. Unlike Ulo, Scrappy decides to go for the Crucible Knights before taking on the basement boss, playing very aggressively to the point of almost dying. Doing so, he racks up a healthy total of 300,000 runes thanks to the knights before the circle starts to close. He kills the Elder Lion for a quick 34,000 runes, grabs a nearby church, finds a stone sword key, and clears the way before the night boss, which appears to be Wormface. When he spawns, Scrappy skillfully disposes of him by pressing Flaming Strike 4 times. That's what he gets for being weak to fire. After that, he's going to head east where he takes on a Magma Worm. It goes down pretty easily, bringing him up to 654,000 runes. He's going to quickly defeat the Stone Skin Lords using the key he found earlier before returning to the castle. Scrappy still avoids the basement for now, preferring to take on the rooftop boss instead, who just so happens to be the Draconic Tree Sentinel. A few jumping L1s break his stance and he hits 50% health in no time. A fireball hits him so hard that Wilder's passive saves his life, and despite getting a little greedy, he finishes the fight and gets rewarded with 225,000 runes. At this point, Scrappy has no choice and it's finally time to fight Vader. He immediately gets hurt, but the lingering fire of his ult staggers the boss and he gets a riposte. As soon as he finishes the crit, Scrappy turns around and runs? This man actually runs outside and kills the crabs so that he can build his ult, and then he goes back inside. While it's not the most glorious strategy, it does pay off, and he can ult Vader again after only 30 seconds, rewarding him with a Death's Poker as a result. Killing the last Crucible Knight, Scrappy ignores the Talisman Room and runs straight to the Scarlet Forest. While Scrappy went for fire in his fight against Wormface, Ulo opts for ice instead. An L2 L1 wave accumulates quick damage over time, and the L2 R2 explosion finishes the job. Following that execution, Ulo goes for the nearby Magma Worm as well, using his ult to keep it in place. Sandwiched between Ghost Flame and the ult's fire, the Magma Worm has nowhere left to go, and Ulo finishes the fight with a Frost proc. After trying his luck at yet another beetle, Ulo returns to the castle where he takes out a Crucible Knight and makes his way up to the rooftop. Once again, Ghost Flame does most of the heavy lifting here, and Ulo even sneaks in a Gold Pickle Foulfoot for good measure. After finishing what's left of the Crucible Knights, he heads into the forest as well. Scrappy is currently leading the race by about 100,000 runes, mostly thanks to his Gold Scarab Talisman, but Ulo could easily make up for that in the Scarlet Forest. This Shifting Earth event is host to a high concentration of formidable bosses, all within a small quarter of the map. Not only that, but the most powerful formidable bosses can be found in the forest, with the likes of the Blackblade Kindred, Draconic Tree Sentinel, Loretta, and even another bell-bearing hunter. This makes the forest a very high risk, high reward area with the promise of strong gear, power, and of course a bountiful amount of runes, all of which our runners are interested in. The first thing Ulo does after entering the forest is clearing a small camp. That's where he's going to be looking for another gold pickle foulfoot. Unfortunately, all he gets are some kukri and rot boluses, and because both runners spent so much time clearing the castle, the first circle is already closing. Spotting a deathrite bird, he switches to the halo sight that he got from the Elder Lion earlier in the run. Headshots from the halo sight deal considerable amounts of damage, and the deathrite bird goes down very easily. Ulo's fire and flame combo makes short work of the nearby tree sentinel, and he finally finds another gold pickle foulfoot in the ruined church nearby. From there, he takes out an ancestor spirit without much trouble, and the next boss on his list is the Blackblade Kindred. This is actually a fearsome boss, and Ulo is reminded of it when the Kindred dodges his ult from point blank range, immediately popping his Wilder passive in response. Not letting that get to his head though, Ulo presses on, and while the Blackblade Kindred tries to get the high ground, Ulo finishes him off with some jump attacks. Unlike his unlucky rival, Scrappy immediately finds a pickle foulfoot in the first camp that he loots. From there, he begins his boss gauntlet as well. His encounter with the tree sentinel is off to a difficult start as he misses back-to-back jump attacks and get beat within an inch of his life. He quickly recovers though and decides to ult to stop the bleeding. After destroying the defenseless sentinel and getting rewarded with a 13% power stancing buff, Scrappy doesn't miss a beat and sprints north over to the deathrite bird. He manages to get behind the deathrite bird and lands some good attacks while the boss misses all of his. A clutch stance break staggers the bird right before his swing kills Scrappy, who finishes the job and gets rewarded with improved jump attacks as a weapon passive. His fight against Loretta is much cleaner, and despite the ancestor spirit doing its best to stall for time, he too falls to the jump attack strategy. While Scrappy's busy killing ants, the night's tide starts to close. Waiting to squeeze as many Scarlet Forest bosses in as possible, he heads southeast and challenges the second Bellberry Hunter. Surprisingly, this hunter is actually scaled down compared to the one in the basement, and a single ult and riposte combo brings him to his knees. After a last second scare, the Bellberry Hunter dies, and Scrappy is rewarded with 74,000 runes. After refilling his ult on ants, Scrappy challenges a Blackblade Kindred as the rain closes in. Thanks to Demon's plating, his build is doing massive damage, and with an ult thrown into the mix, the Kindred dies in just 15 seconds. While running to the circle, Scrappy slaughters more and more enemies until something terrible happens. With only 5 minutes remaining in the run, this is a huge setback. Thankfully, Scrappy died right next to the circle, and when he finally spawns in, he ignores the dragon, which tells us that the Nameless King is the next boss. If he had died again there, then the run was officially over. Funnily enough, Scrappy dying means that the previous level's runes are now added to the pile. But now that he's lost a level, can he actually beat the Nameless King? Against the Bellberry Hunter, Ulo opens with a sprinting ult. His extra greedy L1 makes him lose the riposte window though, and the Bellberry Hunter moves out of the ult's lingering fire. This wastes a lot of time, but a frost proc into another stance break redeems him. Instead of going directly to the Blackblade Kindred, Ulo takes some time to explore the Rot Fort, where he finds the forest power and yet another gold pickle foulfoot. After two-shotting the night mini-boss, he quickly finds the forest power, and this will make him immune to Scarlet Rot during the upcoming boss fights. Following the rain closely, Ulo roams the forest like a vulture, killing any enemy that he can find. At just level 7, he starts the day 2 night boss, and just like Scrappy, he's challenging the Nameless King. The Beastman goes down instantly to glint blades, and a few jumping attacks finishes the dragon. Ulo then does something very interesting. After guessing where the King of Storms will spawn, he preemptively casts Ghost Flame on the ground, which annihilates the boss before its health bar properly shows up. When the Nameless King himself takes to the skies, Ulo lays down another Ghost Flame, then goes for his ult. The Nameless King dashes through him though, and they both miss each other. The King does walk back into the lingering flames however, and while he's transitioning into phase 2, Ulo spams jump attacks to finish the fight. Rather than challenging the Night Lord, each runner does something unexpected and runs into the rain instead. This is when it becomes apparent that they plan to farm enemies until the clock runs out. Between the rain damage and the symbol of avarice's health drain, there is no way they'll survive this. Once Scrappy regains his runes, he gets trolled by the Beastman, who decides to hang out by the circle. As he goes for him, he gets attacked by an off-screen ant and then stomped out by the dragon. That was insanely close. That holy ground on low HP latent power might have just saved his life. Unlike Ulo, Scrappy doesn't have the force power, so he does get Scarlet rotted. This is just another reason for him to finish the fight quickly. A ghost flame explosion brings the dragon low, but Scrappy mistimes another stomp and nearly dies again. When the Nameless King spawns in, he also tries to set up an insta-kill, but it misses and he actually has to fight the Drake. To rub salt in the wound, his positioning triggers a flying fire breath, which stalls even more time. When the boss goes for his horizontal fire breath, Scrappy quickly kills him with jump attacks, and now it's the Nameless King's time to go down. Just like in Ulo's fight, the Nameless King dashes through Wilder's ult as well, and unfortunately for Scrappy, he does not stay in the lingering fire, and that's going to waste a lot of time. A key stagger stops Nameless King from going into phase 2 though, and he ends up dying to the riposte. Now we've reached the most important and most stressful part of the run. Both runners are a few thousand runes apart, and whoever can get the most in the rain is going to come out on top. With only a minute left in their runs, Ulo and Scrappy desperately race to kill as many enemies as possible before both of their timers reach 35 minutes. Scrappy finishes strong with over 2.1 million runes, but is Ulo going to be able to beat that? Ulo rushes into the night and begins to hunt the mobs. He has a destination in mind, but needs to make sure he kills as many enemies as possible before he gets there. Eventually he comes to this wall and spends a ton of time climbing it. You can feel the seconds slipping away as Ulo tries his best to scale this wall. Hopefully whatever's waiting for him at the end is worth the climb. Realizing that he's out of heals, Ulo shifts his focus to a nearby grace so that he can try to survive. He doesn't make it. Despite losing everything upon death, this actually works in his favor. Yes, he loses time on the run back, but thanks to the level decrease, he'll be able to gain an additional 26,000 runes when he picks them back up. He just needs to make sure he doesn't die again on the way back, and fortunately he doesn't. After taking out a horseman, he survives long enough to reach his destination, and we finally learn that it's the Red Wolf of Rodigan. This is one of the most time-consuming bosses in the game, but it's the only one close enough within Ulo's reach. With just 20 seconds remaining in this challenge, let's see if Ulo has what it takes to beat this boss. In the end, Ulo was unable to defeat the Red Wolf in time, but considering Scrappy's final score, it wouldn't have been enough to bring him back into first place anyway. This challenge was extremely close, and although each competitor got lucky in their own way, I really think it came down to the fact that Ulo was unable to find a golden scarab. Regardless, thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, then you won't believe what happens at the end of this one.
Bye-bye.